Welcome to the Discover Health podcast, where we explore the power of gut health, nutrition, and lifestyle to help you feel your best every day. I'm Dr. Josh Sharp, your guide on this journey to better digestion, more energy, and overall well-being. Each week, we'll dive into expert insights, practical tips, and real-life strategies to help you discover health. Ready to start discovering? Let's hit the trail. So I'm here with my new friend and teacher, Jenn Van Campen, and she's been tolerating me for the last few weeks in her classes. And so, Jenn, I'd like you to introduce yourself and kind of what you do and what you teach.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for asking me to do the interview. I'm excited to share this with people. I absolutely love what I do. So it's fun to talk about it. So I am a yoga and Pilates instructor at the Excelsior Springs Community Center in Excelsior Springs, Missouri. I have done some yoga outside of the community center with, privately with people or groups and stuff, but typically I teach here 5 days a week, different classes, and I just love it. So I've been doing it for a while. The yoga mostly. Pilates is a little bit newer to me, but I love it just as much.
Great. How did you get started into yoga?
I got started into yoga back in 2016. So the community center opened the end of 2015, and I had heard a lot about yoga, but I had just never really had the opportunity to look into it or anything like that. And so we had a new instructor that came on, and I had a couple of girlfriends that had started going to the class. So in January 2016, I thought, okay, I'm going to start out the new year with something different, and I'm going to try it and see what I think. And I was totally hooked after the first class. I had never gone to a class or anything where someone said, take this 1 hour for yourself. I was a busy mom of 2 boys, running my own pet sitting business from home, helping my husband with his business from home. So I was really busy, and oftentimes, just crazy, and I was doing Zumba with the girls here at the community center when it was built. And I thought, okay. So she said, when we got into that class, everybody just begin to breathe. Just let's bring it down a notch, and let's just take this 1 hour for yourself. And I was dumbfounded, and I was like, this is awesome. Thank you. Someone is looking out for us, us busy moms. And it's not just moms. Obviously, dads do it too. But it was just kind of getting out of that crazy mindset of just always going, and doing. And so that's really what sucked me in. I went to the second class, and the instructor, she said to me, have you done yoga before? And I said, no. And she said, you really are a natural at this. You're really flowing well, you're breathing well, you're learning the poses quickly. And that just really spoke to me. And she personalized it for me, And so that's kind of where I've learned a lot of just getting to know my students and things like that. But that's what really sucked me in and drew me in. I was also going through physical therapy at the time for my right hip. I have a labral tear. And the physical therapy, while it was helping the hip, it was beginning to cause me knee pain. So once I started the yoga, I started to realize that not only was it kind of taking the place of the physical therapy and helping with the hip, but I was also learning how to take care of my joints, how to align my joints and not stress them. And so then I realized that that knee pain that I was feeling doing physical therapy was starting to dissipate, and eventually it was gone. And so then I knew I was in it for life.
Awesome. I noticed that you said that your teacher noticed that you were a natural and came up to you and kind of encouraged you. I didn't
Hmm.
have that same experience. Nobody's come up to me and said I was a natural at yoga or anything.
It'll come. I
Oh, yeah,
promise. You're
okay.
doing great.
No, that's what I have really enjoyed about your class. You talked about it being kind of a time for you to kind of just relax and kind of reset. And what I've really enjoyed, and I think that you do a good job, I've done very little, but a little bit of yoga from other instructors' videos and stuff. I think you do a really good job of, yes, you're working, yes, you're applying effort, but you're really good at helping people feel relaxed, helping them to just kind of release and let go. And so, yes, you're doing work, but you're actually relieving stress while you're doing it. And so such a cool thing
Absolutely.
about what I've experienced in your class and what I've experienced in yoga in general.
That's
How did
great.
you get started in Pilates? What made you want to add that into your
Mm.
repertoire? Hey, friend, real quick. If you've been enjoying this episode and you're looking for high quality, professional grade supplements that you can trust, I've got something for you. Check out our curated online store at discoverhealth.gethealthy.store. We've handpicked practitioner grade supplements that can be delivered straight to your door. And to say thank you for listening, you can use the code FIRST10 to get 10% off your order. That's discoverhealth.gethealthy.store. Your health simplified.
Pilates is a lot newer to me, so I'm really still learning a lot about it. Our Pilates instructor at the community center here, she took another job with the city. And so as a yoga instructor, they said, can you just take over her class until we figure out what to do? And so I didn't know Pilates, but I knew core. And so we just kind of changed the name of the class from Pilates to core and strength. And so I just knew how to work the core from the yoga aspect of it. But then I decided once I got into it that, you know what, this is probably going to be really beneficial and fit in with the yoga. And so I did decide to go ahead and get Pilates certified. I did that so I took over the class in June. I got certified in last October. And so here we are a few months down the road, and I just feel like I'm really still learning a lot about Pilates. And there are the differences between the two, but they really mesh well together and work. They really give a full fitness picture for people.
Yeah, I totally agree. Having done, just a little bit of Pilates in your class and also yoga, I do think they go so well together and they really kind of complement one another in helping,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you're not missing any areas and, you're getting a strength component, you're getting a stability component. And yeah, I think they go well together so well. So what are some potential benefits that you've seen or that you think people could experience from doing yoga? And then what are some benefits that you think people might experience from doing Pilates?
Well, through both of them, you're going to get core strength. It's
Okay.
just the way they're presented differently. So with yoga, we're using mostly body weight to move through our poses and our practice and things like that. We flow it all together. With Pilates, it's not a flow. They are all separate movements. But what we're doing is we're engaging every muscle in our body when we're doing the yoga as well as the Pilates. The only difference really is that the Pilates is a lot with posture and alignment, with core alignment and things. It really helps to get the pelvis more aligned. And so with the pelvis and the hips being more in place, you're going to have better posture. I have just a less than 10% scoliosis in my lower back. So I'm never really going to have, as a chiropractor, I'm never going to have, that perfect alignment. So just strengthening all of those muscles around the spine, the hips, through the core and all of that really helps to alleviate some of that discomfort that not having that perfect spine alignment can cause. And so I have noticed over, so since 2016 when I started yoga, I've noticed a lot of difference in the alignment, in my hips, in my shoulders, just all of that coming together. And it really makes a huge difference. And the more you do it, of course, the more you're going to build. So.
Absolutely. In just a few weeks, I've already seen, some improvements and benefits. And I think one thing that is so overlooked when it comes to exercise in general is core work. And I think it's really misunderstood as well. But if you have a strong foundation and a stable core, everything else is going to improve as well. Your strength is going to improve, your stamina is going to improve, your endurance is going to improve. And that is such an important and often missed factor when it comes to starting to exercise and working to get healthy, is that core work and just how many things that affects. What are maybe some benefits?
We really get into those deeper internal muscles, especially in Pilates, that you don't just necessarily get when you're lifting weights, or playing basketball, or just going to some of the other mainstream, I guess, exercise programs. And so that's one of the things that I've found is just finding that core strength. I've noticed that, if you slip a little on the ice, if you have a stronger core, you are more likely to stay upright, keep from falling, things like that. The cats and the kids and the dogs and all that can come running everywhere. And you really do find that you have better footing and better body control when you have core strength. That's what I've noticed over these last 9 years.
I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely. What are maybe some benefits that you've seen, like unexpected benefits, things that people tend to improve in, or maybe areas that you've improved in that you didn't expect, or maybe that people wouldn't associate with doing an exercise like yoga or Pilates?
Well, I think a lot of it is determined by what you're wanting out of your practice. So when you come into Pilates, it's mainly just a physical practice, right? We're all there to gain the strength and that kind of thing. But when you come into yoga, there's so many aspects of yoga. Yoga can be superficial, or you can dive deep into it. You can go into the 8 paths, the 8 limbs of yoga, all of these different things. You can go into the chakras, the mindfulness. So it just kind of depends, I think, on if you're coming into it wanting a full experience, or you're just wanting that physical aspect, or maybe you're just wanting that relaxing, calming aspect of the mindfulness. But if you put it all together, you will find a full body and full mind, I don't even know what you call it, release. I don't know. It's amazing to me, just the full aspect of yoga. And sorry, I don't know what that is. I'm at the community center here today. But I would say for me, one of the unexpected benefits was the mindfulness aspect to me. And I had heard a lot over the years before I started yoga, you shouldn't do yoga because it's Hindu, it's Buddhist, it came from India, it's a spiritual practice. Well, here's the thing. We, in the United States, we've westernized that. And so when I went to the yoga class here for the first time, not only did I find out that Lindsay was a wonderful yoga instructor, but she was also a Christian. And so that really spoke to me as well as a Christian, and we were able to come together in that aspect as well. And so you used to hear, clear your mind and all of these things. But with your, particular religious backgrounds and things like that, maybe that's not something that you're supposed to be doing. So it's great that we've westernized it, because we can come into this and we can just look at yoga from where it's at. It means yoke or union, which means just bringing the body and the mind together through the breath and practicing this exercise. So you don't even have to bring that spiritual aspect into it, like they did back in the ancient days in India. But for people who want to, they can also do that.
Absolutely. I think that one thing as a man especially, we tend to ignore our bodies. We tend to, just tug ourselves up by our bootstraps, or rub some dirt on it and just go on. And so you kind of
Right.
ignore things, and you're ignoring some things that are your body's trying to tell you stuff. And so what I've enjoyed through the process is, feeling and experiencing what's actually going on in my body, and then trying to alter my posture a little bit, or trying to work and be really mindful of how I'm breathing, because that's such
Yes.
an important aspect of it. And what I've noticed over time working on my breath and everything is, boy, I hold my breath a lot. I don't breathe very much. And so focusing on that and being mindful of it really does help with the relaxation. It also helps with improving the core strength. And so they all have to work together. You can do movements with your
Absolutely.
body, but if your mind's not involved, you're actually missing a lot of benefit. So that's a really cool thing I've noticed with doing things like yoga.
Yeah.
And you've brought that into Pilates too, which I think is cool.
Yeah, and I do want to mention the breathing. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that that is one of the hardest things to learn when you come into a yoga practice or a Pilates practice, because we do tend to hold our breath when we're doing things, and that's not the way we should do it. That breath
No.
has to complement the body and the mind at the same time, so it does a lot of work. So, I always tell new students, I always cue throughout the whole practice about breathing. And, sometimes for me, it gets repetitive, and I feel like, oh, I hope I'm not being repetitive to everyone else out there. But then I get feedback from people who are like, I didn't even realize I was holding my breath. I was so glad that you said, make sure to take an inhale here and exhale here, because we do tend to hold our breath, and it is good for that breath to flow. We want to take in that good oxygen. We want to get rid of that carbon dioxide, and so the breathing is just as good for the body as the movement.
Absolutely. And no, you're not doing it too much. Everybody's holding their breath. So
Yeah.
they need it. So,
And the one thing they taught us in the Pilates training was, and I think I said this probably, was just don't hold your breath. The breath will come, but don't hold it. So that's part of that mindful aspect of both those practices, is just making sure that we're benefiting from the physical as well as the mind, as well as the breath.
absolutely. Absolutely. Have you had any interesting improvements, or have you seen any students that have had interesting improvements, or have come up to you and, just shared a story with you about how yoga or Pilates has improved their life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of my absolute favorite things about being an instructor here at the community center, is getting to hear the stories from people that come up, and just say, I really didn't think yoga was for me, but after doing it for, this long, however long they've been, I'm noticing that my lower back pain is not as intense. I'm noticing that I have better balance. I'm noticing that my flexibility is increasing, and I feel stronger, and my mind feels more relaxed, more focused, so I can, think more clearly and things like that. Those are just some of my favorite stories. I don't know that I've had any like outrageously wild, things, but even the littlest things for people that brings them joy and peace, that brings me joy and peace. And I love it. I love the community aspect of yoga. I love the way it brings like-minded people together. We try to be very inclusive, in yoga, in Pilates, because here's the thing. They are for everybody and every body.
Mhm.
So you don't have to fit a certain mold to be able to do yoga or to be able to do Pilates, all you have to have is that mindset that you maybe want to try something new, that you want to get a full body and mind experience and become body aware. That's really all you need to start. And just have that positive attitude. You know, in yoga, we're always trying to focus on the positive things, because the negative things that come into our life, we can't control all of those things.
No.
But focusing on the positive, or how we react to things in a positive way, those are things that we can control. And I think that that's one thing that yoga has really demonstrated to me, is that when you do focus on the positive, your life does become happier and more fulfilled. And I didn't think that that was really a thing, but it really is.
Absolutely. It's so often what you focus on. I mean, everybody's got stuff. We've all got difficulties. We're all facing challenges. We live in a fallen world, right? You know, there's a lot of bad stuff going on, but what are you focusing on? And we always have something to be grateful for, and it does make a huge difference. The two things are there, but the most important thing is, you know, which one am I going to choose to focus on, the problems and the, you know, the issues, or am I going to choose to focus on what I have to be thankful for? And this one kind of fades into the background as your focus.
Absolutely. When you focus on the gratitude aspect of your life, it takes away everything that you think is missing, and it focuses you on what you have. And I just think that is, I just think it's really important to change your mindset that way. And I just think that yoga has been that vehicle for me to be able to change the way I look at life, the way I look at things that happen around me. And yeah, and it's just a choice. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give to someone who would be like brand new to yoga, or someone who's considering getting into yoga, or taking a class or Pilates? Is there any advice you would give to somebody that's brand new, that's thinking about it?
I guess what I would say is the best thing you can do for yourself is to try everything. When we have new people that join the community center and stuff, you know, as instructors, our biggest advice is we are so excited to have you in our class, but you need to try everything, because, you know, you might find that weights is your thing as well as yoga. Maybe Pilates and Zumba are your thing. You know, there's just, there's something for everybody. And I just think it's important to go to each and every one of them and just see what fits you. And so, you know, there are different yogas. There's restorative yoga, gentle yoga, there's vinyasa style, which is typically what I teach, just meaning that we flow our poses, and they're basically connected through the flow of our movements. But that's my biggest advice, is just try everything. You will know when you find what fits you. And just definitely to like switch it up a little bit. You know, I love doing yoga. I do it 5 times a week. I do Pilates, and I also do Zumba, and sometimes I do pound. And it's really good for you to just kind of dip your finger into everything and figure out what you like.
Doing a yoga class is definitely something that's outside of my comfort zone. I have done like some videos, some exercise series in the past where they have yoga and stuff in there. But what I've experienced in like an actual class with other people in there, there's something to that group. There's something to having that connection with the other people, you know, whether you're talking to them or interacting, but just being in there with that group. Everybody's going through the same thing. Everybody is experiencing the same thing, maybe in different ways, but there's something beneficial about that. And I've really enjoyed it. Yoga is not something that I felt like, oh, I'm going to be good at this, or I really think this is for me. I realized I was not good at it, and so that's what made me think I need to do this. This is going to be good. I've tried to push my boundaries and get out of my comfort zone, and so that's exactly good. And
coming out of your comfort zone and taking on challenges. You know, the older that we get, we tend to kind of want to stick with what we know.
Right.
But it's still good for us to step out of that comfort zone and to try new things. And you just never know until you try it if it's going to be for you or not. And I do tell people, one of the things that you kind of asked with the questions was how often should you do these exercises? And typically, if you do your exercises once a week, you're going to maintain where you're at. My recommendation is for you to do your classes 2 to 3 times a week, because then you're really going to reap the full benefits of those practices. And usually, there are some people that will notice benefits starting just even after a couple of classes. Some it takes a little bit longer to kind of get into it and really figure out what they're doing. And so maybe it'll take a month or two. But it just depends on everybody and their body and the time that they put into things, when and how they will reap those benefits. So,
yeah, I think one piece of advice that I would give to people is there's a rule in physics or a law in physics. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion, and objects at rest tend to stay at rest. And so the best advice that I would give somebody would just be do something, just start moving. Because what I've found is just doing the class once, even though I was out of my comfort zone. And by the way, I want to encourage you, you did a really good job of helping us, our family, to feel welcome. Even our kids, joined us and did it. And we appreciate it. It was great.
Oh, that's great.
Once I did it the first time, it was easier to go the second time. Once I went the second time, it was easier to go the third time. And so kind of the habit, it's almost like a snowball effect. It gets easier to go, and a lot of your barriers and hurdles, get kind of pushed aside, and it becomes easier to just keep going. So
that's exactly right. And the other thing that we try to really stress in the yoga classes is, you're not competing against anyone in that room. You're only competing against yourself from the day before, And so don't compare yourself to other people, because no one's built alike. No one's had the same physical experiences or injuries or whatever it is. So it's just you and your mat, but the energy in the room from having all of those other people in there with you, or even if it's just 5 other people in your class. I mean, there's an energy there that is really beneficial. And for me, group classes are my thing. I just don't find myself disciplined enough to go and make myself do the weights or, do all of these things on my own. But I find that the group classroom setting, there's some accountability there. And once you get to know other people in the class, you start talking, you start texting, you start becoming friends, and then everybody's like, hey, you gonna be at class? Oh yeah, I'm gonna be at class. Man, I hate that I have to miss tonight, but I've got this I've got to go to, but I'll be back on Saturday. There's just that accountability factor that I absolutely love that part about it, and that's what's kept me coming all these years.
Awesome. Well,
yeah,
thank you so much for taking the time to allow me to interview you and kind of get some information from you about yoga and Pilates and just health in general. It's been, really good to hear just more in depth of how you got started into it and some of the benefits that we might not always think of or associate with yoga and Pilates. If somebody wanted more information about classes at the Excelsior Springs Rec Center, how could they get in touch with you or with the rec center?
Anyone can find me on Facebook, Jenn Van Campen. Then I also have a Sunshine Yoga Facebook page. So typically I invite people to that who come to my classes. But I do have friends and people from around the country that are also on that page because of their love of yoga. So you can find Sunshine Yoga on Facebook and ask to join the page. And I'll let you in for that. I just tend to try to keep that page really positive. I give, announcements if the community center is going to be closed for weather, or if we're going to be doing something special, like last week, we had the Chief Spirit Week before the Super Bowl, which seems to be a yearly thing, and it's really fun. But, I always let everybody know each class what we're supposed to wear, or what we're supposed, whatever the theme is and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I use the Sunshine Yoga page for, just to keep everything positive and just keep everybody kind of on the same page with things. So, mostly you can find me on Facebook. You can also find the Excelsior Springs Parks and Rec Community Center website. And there's lots of information on there, or of course you can call the community center and they will hook you up. We're always happy. The gals at the front desk are always happy to give people a tour around the facility, so you kind of have an idea of what you're looking at when you come in. I hope more people get physical. I hope more people find yoga and Pilates and really help their bodies and their minds just to be better.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to the Discover Health podcast. Remember, your health is a journey, not a destination. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next week.